Hey everybody, it's Sherpa Rage, and today I'm going to be doing a build breakdown, kind of for my first weapons really here, getting into it. So I figured I'd kind of do one of my staple weapons in the sense that it's one of my favorite weapons. It's so much fun. I run it pretty much as my default melee, and that is the Prism Dual Cleavers. So the Prism Dual Cleavers is just a Prism version, Prisma version of the dual cleavers. A little bit higher stats, a little bit better, I believe, crit chance in particular, which is one of the things I really like about it. Um, so, looking just at the stats here before I kind of jump into the actual breakdown a little bit more. So I do have corrosive build on it. That is pretty much like my number one go-to. The reason for being corrosive is 100 to 150% effective against all enemy types, unless there's something that's changed. But pretty much since the new damage came out long time ago when I first started playing everything, like the first couple of months, I think it was like 6 months, and then me actually starting playing Warframe when like Damage 2.0 came out and everything. I went through and I checked all the enemy types and everything, and corrosive was 100 to 150% effective in damage, which is pretty much one of the reasons I run it exclusively, except for sometimes I will run blast, I will run some heat damage on certain guns like the Grakata, old school Grakata. Now there's the Prism Grakata. It's a little bit different build on that one as well. But back to the Prism Dual Cleavers. So we do have, corrosive 134, slash damage, so 89 on that, and then puncture, impact, 11.2, both for that. So really good for like infested, and of course corrosive does a lot of damage against like ferrite type armor and things like that. Um, all in all, it's damage is okay in that sense, but where it really gets its boost is also from the stance mod, which I will get into that, and kind of explain why it's a really nice one. So you can see the wall attacks. Status chance is pretty good too. So for that corrosive, it um, does pretty well on the status chance there with that corrosive damage. You can see the spin attack does quite a bit, the leap attack. So I do have it focused as a crit damage weapon. As you can see, 40% crit chance here, 5.7 times multiplier, which is pretty darn big. I mean, I do wish the crit chance was a little bit higher, and I've always wanted that with melee. And so with the last event that they did with the new mods, it was extremely nice to get those, because it made melee so much more viable in just every real way. So I'll go ahead and jump into the build break and explain what I mean by the new mods make it viable. So Blood Rush and Body Count are the two new mods I was speaking of there. So I do have 3 Forma on this. It is important to note. Really, it only needs 2. I tried, I believe, to Forma this with actually a slot down here, not realizing you couldn't swap them, which is kind of one of the dumbest things, really, in my opinion. I understand there's not really a double slash one. I forget what is that one actually called. The Zinurka? I don't actually know how you say that one. But basically, there's not one of those stance mods, so it wouldn't really make sense to swap. But at the same time, I don't understand what the issue really with that is. But besides the point there. So Blood Rush, which does plus 135% crit chance, stacks with combo multiplier. So what this means is your crit chance actually stacks with the multiplier of how many enemies you're hitting. On missions like Draco that I run, which is what I will be doing to showcase the build breakdown on this, you guys will see kind of what I mean on how viable this makes melee. And already having a pretty decent crit chance, it's very nice. And then body count increases your actual combo duration. So this mod makes it so the time in between hitting enemies is actually longer. So you have a little bit more leeway and kind of leisure there, to which you can kind of run in between. So if you can run kind of from group to group and such, and it makes it a lot nicer there. So that's a really big increase there. Of course, then we have True Steel and Organ Shatter for crit damage, crit chance. I really do wish this crit chance was higher. Like for secondaries and primaries, the crit chances are much higher. For the primaries, it's like 150, 150, I think. For the pistols, it's like 90, and then yeah, 60. So it goes down 30 by each, but I mean the pistol one of 90 is still viable. Like I wish this was 90%. That's really the only other thing I've ever had an issue with, kind of as far as melee goes. And I've wanted that even before these mods came out. Now that these mods are out, it's not as big of a deal, but I still do wish that, just so I could get those base crits right off the bat quicker. But with this, like I said, it's not really that big of a deal now. Pressure point, melee damage, and then of course my 2 toxin mods here with the status as well, which those guys are very, very important to my builds because I usually run these. And then typically I'll have Fever Strike and then Shocking Touch as well. So that's like the normal 4-stack bottom I will go for. These are a lot different usually, or this one in particular is a lot different build, which I think is one of the reasons I like it so much, is because it's a little bit more unique than most of my melee builds go. Swirling Tiger. So like I said, this one is fanning multi-hit strikes. So the actual stance mod does, because of the combos, it does your spin attacks and things a little bit more. So you get that really high damage right off the bat, because there is, especially, what is the, yeah, Winding Claws. I think that's... Yeah, I think this is the one that I'm thinking of here. I don't know. It's kind of just more of muscle memory for me, so I just kind of do it and it happens. I don't really think about the way it, which one it is in terms of the mechanics as far as that goes. And the last mod I do have down here is Justice Blades, which is amazing for the melee damage and the Justice proc. With the Blood Rush and Body Count combination as well, this makes the Justice proc so much, it is ridiculous. So I will go ahead and jump in here and show you guys the actual footage, and just show you, because I am going to be focusing solely on this weapon and doing Draco run with just these primary. Like, I'll have other guns attached which I level up, and this is also giving you a kind of a insight into how I do my former runs. So I will be showing you guys that footage now. Um, it's already got really high crit chance, you know, decently high for melee, but it's easy enough. I'm at 28 stacks on this already. My procs proc often enough. I don't really ever have to worry about, you know, getting too overwhelmed, which is kind of nice. You can just kind of run into a group. I mean, and channeling, that's another thing too. Like, you can channel for additional damage. Typically, I won't channel till like later rounds, especially on Draco, like 3 or 4, or if I just want to kill something really, really quick. But I don't really typically channel into channel weapons, things like that. So that is just kind of something to keep in mind there. Um, really not a whole lot to say about them. They speak for themselves in terms of just their damage. The proc, as you can see right there, just it hits like everything on this map in particular. I don't know the actual range, which might be kind of something to look into. But typically with, like I said, the Draco runs I do and everything, I do want to get more into the rating and kind of stop going away from, or go away from just doing all these Forma and everything. But at the time right now, I'm having no problems just doing this. Naja, babysitter frame, so gotta do that. Like I said, and that's another great thing about Naja is her ult. Just like, oh, you're surrounded by enemies and you're having hard time keep going down. I'll just kind of, ult, go help them up, and then anyone who survives, I just pretty much kill them with the Prisma Dual Cleavers. And you can see if I tab back to my other weapons. Here, give me a second. Find me some time here. Let's see, yeah, RD9. They're both RD9. They're gaining XP super ridiculously fast. So, yeah, this is basically round one, and like I said, with how much I proc too, I typically get either like second highest, if not highest damage. Yep, there we go. Round one, and that's 10 for both guns right there. So typically 4 rounds of this, and you'll get, and look at that, focus 5,000. Because I really have no rhyme or reason. I'm just going to kind of pick the ones I like and do them unless people have questions or anything. So thanks for viewing.